Desert Island Discs.
Welcome back. Last week we had an incredible moment sharing her life story. The Reverend Canon Diana Mirembe Barlow Nkesiga. A story of ministry, a story of growth, a story of so many other challenges that we in the lay community face and think, oh well, it's just because we are who we are lay people. But then it's also a story that shows you that what we experience as a people transcends perhaps even our religious beliefs. Because the story was so riveting, she's back here to share with us the remaining part of it. Even though we know, even when we close tonight's program, her story continues, and one day she'll be back for a third, fourth, and fifth time, for as long as life endures. Welcome back to the program.
Oh, thank you, Simon. I wanted to call you Solomon. Sorry, Simon.
The names are very close by.
Yes.
And yes, South Africa was quite a journey for you.
Mm-hmm.
Changes both as they were for the country and community in which you were preaching, but also changes for you raising a young family, at the same time having to create a sense of hope to people that had for many decades, perhaps even centuries, never had a belief in themselves as being one. Just tell us, what did you see as a sense of that community? That you had to come in and bridge the gap and build their spirituality to the level where they get back their humanity?
That sounds really big. I think when you interact with a new community, there's something that they give you as you give. Yeah, you sow into them. One of the things, and I think this is where I get my sense of justice, is there are things as Ugandans we took for granted. If something goes wrong, we feel we can't speak about it. Maybe somebody else will speak about it. Maybe the politician. There was a way that they spoke about justice. Justice was part and parcel of their story and identity. And I think that rubbed off quite a bit on me. People call us feminists, but really what people are seeking for is to be able to express their total humanity. Yes, to be who they should be. And I think that rubbed off on me. But let me give you an example where I think I impacted. Is the year we moved in 1994, I was priested. I was brought back to Uganda and priested.
Oh.
Yes.
What informed that?
You're leaving my story. I'm going to first tell you what I did.
Okay.
Then you will ask me. I got priested, and then we were moved to a beautiful city called Port Elizabeth, the cleanest in South Africa.
Oh yeah, beautiful place.
Beautiful.
Until you got the taxi park. It looks like the one here in
yeah, it has changed. It's changed. It's changed. It used to be. It shouldn't be like that. So anyway, we went to Port Elizabeth, and the bishop there sent me to an all-black clergy conference, post-apartheid. Tutu had, Archbishop Tutu, he became my friend. I'm like, Tutu. People talk about him, I think.
Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
Emeritus. Did you know that they give the word emeritus only if people vote you? You don't become emeritus just because you're retired. So anyway, Bishop Tutu congregated all the black people, priests, and they were saying, as a church, how do we move? What is our message? We've voted. Mandela is now president. So what is our message to people? Should we still fight the white people? How do we reconcile? And so I don't know why a black Ugandan lady was sent to that conference, but I found out when I got there. When I arrived, I was so excited. I was in the presence of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, a person I had read about in church history, and a person for justice, and someone who, you know, at the forefront of changing Africa. So I was so excited. And I thought, who am I? I am a deacon. And he was standing right in front of me, speaking to the person who then became the Archbishop Njongo Nkulu. And they're there, both of them in their purple. And I'm like, how do I get a picture with this man? So there was a cameraman who was taking pictures, and I stood behind him on the hill, like he's talking here and you stand behind. They take a picture so I can send it to my people in Uganda.
I see.
And as I was standing there ready for the picture, he turned around and said, Diana. I was like, of course I was struck because I was like, he knew my name. He knew my name.
Archbishop Tutu
knew my name. And I'm like, okay, I'm in trouble now. He says,
hey, that was
if you want a picture, simply ask. And I'm like, okay. And I'm still looking at him, wondering what he's going to do. So he comes, he puts his hand round my waist.
Wow.
Now, I had this image of Desmond Tutu being tall. I suddenly realized he's not that tall. He put his round my waist and he said, take the picture. And I was still like this. And then he said, okay, finish it. And I didn't know what to do. That picture got into the papers, by the way.
My goodness.
Yes. And later he called me. He said, by the way, did you get priested? I said, yeah, I've just come back from Uganda. I was priested in December. He said, good. He said, now, on Wednesday, you're taking Holy Eucharist. I said, I am? He said, yeah. Do two things for me. One, don't tell the men that you're taking Eucharist on Wednesday. Two, don't apologize for it. There was something that had been passed that, like, if a woman was going to celebrate Holy Eucharist, that you had to warn the congregation, just in case they didn't want to be part of it. So you say, this morning, we have a female priest, and if you're uncomfortable, there'll be a male counterpart for you to take communion. So he said, you don't apologize, and you don't warn them. So
that was at the conference.
At the conference. I'd never seen, we were all together, a sea of black priests and other church members. And I found another lady. She was a deacon from Johannesburg. So we were the only two black ordained people. So we took, they didn't mind us. Yeah, ladies take morning prayers. So we did the morning prayers and we moved into Eucharist. Suddenly, I was behind the table. And I could feel, I could feel the change in the atmosphere. It's okay for you to take the reading. It's okay for you to lead the singing. It's okay for you to say an occasional prayer. But behind
to break the bread,
the altar, and so I start. And I'm reading, I'm trying to read the congregation. There's mixed emotion, and I'm like, okay, God, I'm concentrating on you. I must do it perfectly. I had practiced so hard. I said I mustn't falter. So I did it. And then I was in front and I was saying, draw near with faith and receive the body of our Lord Jesus Christ. And there was a hesitation and I thought, whoa, no one's coming at this rate. And Archbishop Desmond Tutu rose from his seat, came forward, knelt in front of me and took the Eucharist. behind a sea of clergy, raised up, the leader had gone.
And followed the leader.
And they came. At the end of the Eucharist, there were three, they were not necessarily priests, I think they were three black gentlemen who had tears in their eyes. And I'm like, oh, did you give your life to the Lord? They said, no. We are so moved by the way you did the Eucharist. I said, well, we've never had the Eucharist being celebrated in the voice of a woman. And he said, for the first time I actually heard the words of the Eucharist and the meaning. I had sort of lost the meaning because I was used to men mumbling it.
Exactly, yeah.
And then he said it with such clarity. And he said, wow, I don't have to debate ordination of women. You debated by doing it right in front of me.
Wow.
And so he said, for me, it's over. Women should be ordained.
Just like that.
Just like that. And during that conference, Desmond Tutu asked, and he said, we are saying that black people needed to be treated with dignity. And I told them, until black men can give the same dignity to black women, why would white people even think of giving us? So we must give each other the dignity before we expect people who don't even understand us to give us the same sort of honor.
This is activism par excellence. And
what do you mean?
activism not in the civil space as we know it, but in the rank and file of those that are called to serve the Lord. Now for me, that hits home. I'm talking about home. So you do your mission in South Africa. At what point do you call it game down and say, I'm returning home?
We spent 12 years in South Africa. So there's a whole story of 12 years missionary work. So we come back to Uganda in 2005. And I come back and I've made up my mind where I'm going to be. On the periphery of the church, as I've always been.
Periphery?
Yes.
Not right
not in the main line church. Up to that stage, up to that time, I had worked as the administrator of an AIDS haven. I'd been chaplain at the university. I had worked for hospice. And so I'd never run a parish. So I thought, Uganda, the way I left it, let me not tamper with them. I'm going to work for an NGO. And I got into a very nice NGO, which made me very comfortable because I told you I hate moving. I didn't want to move to South Africa. Now I didn't want to return. And Solomon felt it was time for us to return. And I came back grumbling because I didn't know if I would be accepted. And I got this work in an NGO, and it was comfortable. It had good money. It was Christian. Every 3 months I was flying to South Africa, and so it's like putting South Africa and Uganda together for me, which was comfortable. And then the church came knocking at my door. I was in Namirembe Diocese. I reported back, which you need to do, but I was not placed anywhere. So I was very comfortable in my NGO.
Which name? Oh, you don't want to
Viva Network Africa. Wow. And I then, they came knocking at my door. We want you to come into Kampala Diocese. Long story short, I was let go of Namirembe Diocese, moved into Kampala Diocese. And out of 8 months of negotiating with the bishop, In 2007, I was appointed vicar of All Saints Cathedral.
Were you the first woman vicar of All Saints Cathedral?
No. Reverend Canon Monica Sedidega was the first. I even want to think she was the first provost because she acted provost for so many years and they wouldn't appoint her, which you just do the work but not have the title. It's, you can always serve without titles. You don't need titles to serve the Lord.
Kampala Diocese, huge, but it's also at the heart of where it all happens. And you are the vicar at Nakasero. Daunting task, wasn't it? Also, you felt.
I came back and it wasn't the All Saints I knew. I went to Crusaders at All Saints Cathedral as a young child. We'd gone to church. A lot of our uncles and aunties were staunch members, even in the choir. And suddenly, there were tents.
Yes.
It had grown, it had multiplied massively.
And now audiovisual aids outside because no one.
It was massive. And guess what? Who was there? Reverend Canon Tiromwe, Reverend Gelenga, myself, and Reverend Okwi. And I'm looking, a congregation of 7,000 and we are 4. And people said, no, you don't even know Canon Monica, they were 2. And I said, no, this doesn't work. I think I came in already challenging the boundaries. So that, I love people. And one of the things that I chose to do as I go in, I said, God, just teach me to love them as they are, then I will be able to serve. So for me, I was in my mind when I saw this sea of a congregation. I'd been in small, intimate congregations. I thought, what brings them together so that you don't miss a single person in your congregation? And this is the one thing that came to my head. Everyone has a birthday. Everyone, whether it is the cleaner or the prime minister sitting in the front row, you can acknowledge, on their birthday, you can acknowledge them. And hence, a tradition of that came around. I also, in 2010, got into soccer. I knew the men, get the men interested. We used 2010 soccer.
The World Cup.
Yes. I told them, people, Christians brought soccer into this country to divert men from war. You know, you people, when you don't know how to solve problems, it's just war, guns, kill the person and move on. We were teaching you how to burn that testosterone with football. So we used football also to fundraise to build the new cathedral.
Wow.
And many other innovations in terms of caring for those on the periphery whom I had served before. People living with AIDS, children with special needs, alcoholics, people with mental health problems, many times that are invisible behind people's doors at home. The church doesn't reach such people. And so I did different ministries that opened up to such people.
That's still groundbreaking in the sense that you are expanding the flow of the gospel as we knew it. Because as we know it, you come to church and receive it there. Now you're saying we're sending ministry out there. Those innovations, how were they received by the leadership?
I think the I don't want to call them innovations. I think it's what is called Pastoral Ministry. And we were taught that. But with a congregation at All Saints, before congregations, like a congregation would live in Buddo, and you'd know all your parishioners.
You know everyone.
But now you have someone coming from Luwero to All Saints, someone from Entebbe to All Saints, someone from Bukoto to passing the church in Bukoto coming to All Saints, someone coming from Gayaza bypassing all the churches that way and coming to All Saints. So where people came from was so wide. So I think in the time when you had just two clergy looking after a sea of those people, it became impossible. But I felt that if you don't go and meet people where they are, it's very difficult to preach the gospel to them, because they're dressed like you, Simon, on a Sunday morning in a bow tie. I don't know you have at home a child with special needs, because that child cannot sit for 2 hours in a church, cannot fit in the Sunday school. And so you leave them home with a maid or a caretaker. And it's when I go home, I have insight that actually Simon has an alcoholic brother who's giving them and who feels excluded from the church.
Yes.
What is the church doing about it? So a lot of these things were new, they were different. I was doing ministry differently, but I had learned that type of ministry from the periphery, because I wasn't working inside the church building, I was working outside, and the Lord then, of course, opened me to that ministry.
And then tragedy befalls your home.
Yes.
And Solomon passes. You want to share a bit about that?
Yeah, that was a tough 9 months. We were excited about being home. We had been home from 2005. It was just 10 years. We were like, we now know we have relationship. We've caught up with everybody. We now know the Ugandan lingo. We began to have insight to your politics, and I'm calling it your politics. Yes. Our politics.
You started now exclaiming, Banangi.
The other time we used to say Yebo. Now we were saying Banangi. Even my children are beginning to have the lingo, the football lingo of our kapira. And now we were going to celebrate. We had become fully integrated into Uganda again. Uganda was truly home, and South Africa were a visit. So now we're going to celebrate 25 years of our marriage. And we are excited about making this milestone. 2 priests married one to the other. And with all the challenges that comes with. And so we go for a trip to Germany, to Poland. Solomon was doing work and he took me along. And we come back. And anyhow, Solomon started feeling uncomfortable when he was in Germany. Then he came back. We thought it was ulcers. Then he came back, and by April, they realized something was strange in his liver. By June, we were in India, and in 9 months, the journey was over. He was diagnosed with gallbladder cancer, and 9 months, I mean, I couldn't believe it was over. We did celebrate in between his sickness. Yes, we refused. We celebrated. We were going to celebrate 19th of August, 2015. 2014. And he went to theater that day. So I celebrated with him. I ate his chocolate for him when he came out because he couldn't take. And then we decided November 14th to celebrate. We said, let's just give thanks. He was doing well. He was pain-free. We knew he was still sick, but life, it was becoming a bit more comfortable. We said, let's give thanks, and for 25 years and for his. So we did. We just went to church, invited, and then we had something outside the tents. And then someone paid for 100 people to have dinner with us. So, wow, it was really cool. I'll never forget that day. I'm glad we did it, and I'm glad it's recorded. Actually, part of our story is recorded on there.
That's memories.
Yeah.
In a hospital hallway, Fortis Hospital, Gurgaon to be exact, in India, I read this line.
Okay.
Here we treat, but God heals. I'm throwing it at you as a priest.
You're throwing it to me as a priest.
Because when I walked into the hospital with a very ailing uncle, knowing that I had staked my savings and other contributions we've made, that were coming into this place where I would live with healing.
Yeah.
And then these guys have a disclaimer, an indemnity clause right there saying, we treat.
It's God
He heals. When you're going to India, did you have that? Is that something you had in you? Or you had become human like me and you believe that these humans are going to heal?
You become desperate, yes, but always, I mean, for us in our desperate situations, we run to God. First of all, even going to India, the love that was poured on us by Ugandans, both from our church, our family, and other people who we don't know who just love us. That was incredible. That was God's hand on the way. I remember I saw God's hand every step of the way. Sometimes you'd be shaky and then God would do something. I remember he needed what you call what's it called? A stent. A stent. And he needed a chemo port. And they told me $1,000. I didn't have it at the time. But as we were driving to the airport, going to India for the fourth time, for the third time, someone called me, come to church, I want to pray for you. And he came. He didn't even want us to say this, but he came and he was sitting there, an ambassador, and he was sitting there on the step of the church. When we arrived, he said, but you just take this envelope, don't open it. Here, I wish you well, go to the airport. I wish Solomon healing. That's all he said. And Solomon almost felt like we did a detour. This man didn't even pray for us. But I said, no, he prayed for us. And he said, he put in you, this will help you along the way. And so I remember in India, the guy saying, I think Solomon's veins are all blocked. We need to put a chemo port here so that they put the medication direct. And he said, how much is it? He said, it's a lot of money. I said, how much is it? He said, $1,000. I said, let me go and see what I have in my handbag. Because people kept giving me money and I put it in. I wasn't even counting. So I went and I opened my handbag and I threw it. And the money was, we had accommodation. We had,
wow.
And then I said, hey, Uncle Paul gave us this envelope. Let me see if I can add. And it was $1,000. Exactly.
Right.
I didn't have to take off my accommodation, my food. I didn't have to call back for extra fundraising. It was, I just said, sir, go ahead. $1,000. There were many stories like that. There's a guy who I told him his firm chartered him from Nairobi and back just to bring me a right needle for Solomon. Because he went to Nairobi, I was in contact with someone trying to get me those needles, and no one could bring them. This guy walked into his sister's office. He was a Muslim guy. He said, Minange, they flew me to Nairobi. Now they've called me back. So I've come to just say hello to you as I go back. These people have wasted my time. And the lady said, please, please take Reverend Solomon's needles. So I told him, do you see your company chartered you to go? You didn't even do anything. You came back through your sister, who we connected with, who had our needles, and you brought them and you drove them all the way to Kololoko. So those are the things where I saw God at work at every moment.
Wow.
I saw that. And as much as people think death is a failure, it is not. It's a higher calling, and it's a higher form of healing.
Play your next song.
The next song is Wahambanati, which is a South African song, which means he's walking with us.
Wow. Beautiful, powerful, incredible. What a life story. Now, after that song, we get to know a bit about Reverend Diana. Her favorite dish, what makes her happy, how she chooses her vestments on a good, bright, sunny day, and everything in between. So don't move away.
Desert Island Discs.
So let's tell us about this. This is a beautiful structure that you call the Church of Reconciliation.
Yeah.
And from the architectural setting, you did say it's two C's, one C and another C around. So
Yes.
it's more like a hug
Like that.
for reconciliation.
Yes.
What inspired you to set this up like this?
One, set up this whole place called Pumla. We were inspired by what was going on in Uganda at the time. We came back, we hadn't built.
Mm-hmm.
And where we had a piece of land, people had built huge houses around us and blocked our view of the lake. And we didn't have the money that would build a
much.
storage. So the retreat, we learned how to retreat and take rest every so often from ministry to avoid burning out, especially because I worked with the suffering, mainly with the suffering. And someone treated us to a retreat, and that's where the dream was formed, to build a retreat center. We want things African, we want things affordable. Many times Ugandans, we want things to look like Dubai.
How did
You got it. And we said, what is ours? One of the things we learned in the communities, when we were in South Africa, we made bricks to build a church which had been burned down in 1960. And for 50 years, no one had done anything about it. And we said, in Uganda, we make bricks. So my Nkesiga man started making bricks. And they said, are they the right definition, the size, the quality? And we built a church. He built a church there in the Shan. So when he came back, he said, these youth, they're unemployed. They have nothing to do. They're waiting for big money to build some multi-story. Let's show them that you can do cheap but beautiful things. I don't even want to call them cheap, but appreciate what we have and put value to it. And so these were sun-dried bricks made with a little bit of lime, impacted. The Nkesiga man did the thing.
Exactly.
You hire the thing and they dry over about 3 to 5 months under canvas, and they were used. These are solid. If you go to the UK and find houses made like this, they've been there for 1,000 years.
Wow.
So we're saying, if we don't have money, we can still do something affordable out of the city. Out of the city. That my husband was like, came back, Kampala is congested.
I know. What the name Pumla? What does it mean?
Pumla means Humla, Humra, whatever. It's
so
South African, it's a Xhosa name.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And it also means the same?
Yes, they're Bantu languages.
Wow.
Yes.
Incredible.
Yes. So
wow.
This is a place of rest. And because of our work in South Africa, we call this the Chapel of Reconciliation. The art, we wanted it to be very African. And
so you hold service in here?
Yes, we do. When people come for retreats, they have overnights, they have services, but we're not licensed. But I'm doing something about that. Yes, so I am licensed, but the building's not licensed.
So you should be able to transact in the light as it is.
yeah, that would be a whole process. Yes.
Reverend Diana, what gives you a good laugh?
A good laugh.
Always laughing, but what gives you a good laugh?
A good laugh. I learned to laugh very late in life. I was a very serious Christian when I was in Gayaza, trying to get everyone to be saved. And I realized that was killing me. And then when I made mistakes, I learned to laugh at them. But the person who used to make me laugh and I would cry and they wouldn't know how to stop me was Solomon.
Wow.
Most people saw him as a serious guy, very academic. But when we were here, Solomon used to make, he would make us laugh, not change his emotion and tell us he'll laugh tomorrow. And he'd leave us there laughing.
What gets you angry?
Angry, that's very easy. It's very easy. What gets me angry is injustice.
I almost guessed.
Yes, it is. If I was taught by my parents, which I found also in the gospel, never, ever to despise anybody. Never. You don't know his story. You don't know where he came from. You don't know what has happened to him. So he's drunk and lying on that street. Do you know his story? If you went through what he went through, where would you be?
Perhaps in a worse place than where he is.
Probably. So from when you enter into a home, from the cleaner to any institution, from that guard who's sanitizing you, make him smile.
Wow. Anything short of that.
And then you walk into the general manager, the CEO's office any day, if you can do that.
Yeah.
So if you despise anybody, I get hurt. I get hurt, and that hurt turns into anger. If you despise me because of my gender, you are in big trouble.
Oh,
that
you don't want to
goes. But for me, I can take it. And I say, that person is ignorant. They don't know what value God has put on me. And they don't know, by the way, when someone does that, they don't know their own value.
Later on, not knowing yours, they don't know.
When I call you foolish, it's has a bearing on what I think of myself. So be careful what you say to others.
Wow.
If you value people, you're like, okay, Sevo, that is, I think you're mistaken.
As opposed to,
yeah.
Tell me something.
Tearing them down.
What was, for how many years have you been a priest? Decades. What has been your lowest moment in ministry?
Okay. I've been a priest for 30 years, 25 years a priest, but 30 years in ministry, because I had those 5 years as well. My lowest moment, I think there've been a number. I think my lowest moment was not losing Solomon, but my lowest moment was not allowing me have space to grieve as a priest. Yes. There's a way that, I don't know if you call it dehumanizing. It's like making me like I'm not human enough to grieve. And that grief journey is long.
So when we are grieving, we look out for rocks like you on whom we throw our burdens. And so the expectation of society sometimes is that you don't have that human element like we do.
I think we have created it ourselves as priests. But one of the things I decided very early on, you know, when I started, people say, a priest doesn't do that. A priest doesn't. I'm like, hey, you're detaching me from the rest of humanity.
A priest doesn't.
I can also have a bad hair day, my friend. I can also fail and say I'm sorry. That day, you know, I was out of sorts with myself. I should have approached it differently. We also have marriages that struggle and have to be built in a healthy way. We have to learn a healthy way of doing things. So we have to, I think we, either both community and us distance ourselves from people. So we look like super people, superhumans, when we are not. We don't like to be vulnerable in front of people. And the moment you do that, the rest sort of like, now, you be strong, you be strong. But anyhow, I chose to take a year off, work through it, come back fresh and new.
Wow.
Yeah, I think.
What's that one thing, Reverend Diana, that perhaps until today, nobody, not Ignatius, not Temple, not even Solomon in his posthumous life, knows about you?
Oh my gosh, what don't they know about me? I think many people don't know that I was a shy person. Many people don't know I have my own hang-ups. There are things that embarrass me. People think I'm so assertive that nothing embarrasses me. But there are certain things, those who know me close in the family, maybe, they know the certain gestures that mean, now she's on the edge there, or she's touched her nose, that means, you know. But for others, they might miss it. But a lot of people, and I've spoken about it in my marriage classes, I try to be as honest about myself as possible. Then there's nothing that will embarrass me. I always tell people, I've had a hang-up about the size of my shoe.
Oh.
Now I made you look. I made you look, yeah. I wear size 9. And this country does not have any shoes for women like me. We were discriminated. It's an injustice. There are my sisters who are size 10. For me to get a shoe, I have to go to the States. I don't get that type of money. But I laugh about it. I say it keeps me humble. It keeps me. But perhaps one thing. Oh, should I share it? Okay. I lost a pregnancy in my latter years.
Oh.
I don't think my children know. Walk that journey with Solomon. So we are truly human, like everybody else. And it's been a learning. I've been able to walk with people who had stillbirths and lost their babies and whatever. I haven't told them the story, but I know what it is where people say, no one saw the baby, so quick, take, bury, and or even if you miscarry, it's do you realize that when I miscarry, we miscarry a human being?
Yeah.
Where do we put that child?
It's a beautiful question.
You leave it in the hospital, they think it as blood or
medical waste.
Medical waste. That thing is painful because for you, you've had life growing in your body.
Bonded with it.
And someone says, it can't happen.
Now this, Solomon's people will remember, have been told, Smuchiga man is smuggling coffee with his wife. They're crossing that big river in Canon called the Jambo. They're walking on a one-pole bridge. The wife has a baby teether to the back. She's carrying coffee here. So they're moving, the husband is right behind. Right in the middle, below a ruckus of water flowing. The baby on the back is unstrapped. Right into the water.
Yeah.
Quickly the husband said, Chara, relax. You continue. We shall make another baby. To that woman, the conversation is different.
It's totally different.
But the guy saying we will make another one is the husband who loves her so dearly.
Yeah, so what does he do?
Thank you. So that will be continued another time.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of our conversations today, Reverend,
yes.
Diana, how about your favorite dish?
Favorite dish? When we were in South Africa, we missed
sheep head. They put the straw through the eye and drink and suck out the brain. Oh God!
I was given status of a man by the way I could eat a sheep's head when I was in Transkei.
Wow! I love that status of a man to eat a sheep's head.
Yeah, the women don't eat it. It's only the men who eat it. So yes, I used to love cake. People, I've upgraded from cake. I went from cake to ice cream. Then from ice cream, I went to grapes.
You're going up the tree.
Yeah, people used to bring me a lot of cake when I was in All Saints. Then one day I said I've upgraded to ice cream. I have friends who bring me ice cream. But now, for about 5 years now, I've been grapes.
Wow.
Grapes are the things.
Growing healthy.
Yes.
It's a beautiful country that we're in, Uganda, without a doubt. And considering that you're married from across the Great Rift Valley, one is tempted to ask, if you were to have a moment, a way to be by yourself, which part of the country would you want to be in for that moment and why?
We had I can you imagine that I've never been to, I went to Bwindi and I think I went there for business. We were doing the cancer health camp. Bwindi looked beautiful. I've been to Queen Elizabeth National Park. If someone can sponsor.
Don't even say. You never know where this is headed.
I love that. I think I'd like to go to Lake Bunyonyi also. Yeah, I'd like to go to Lake Bunyonyi.
I know somebody who knows somebody who
knows somebody
in Lake Bunyonyi. I believe and hope that they are watching us now. Let's see what they say.
Don't tempt them.
That said, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Having you twice back to back on the program.
Wow.
And you so succinctly and willingly sharing your life story, which I'll tell you will inspire so many people like you.
Yes.
People like me. People who see a glass ceiling, want to be above it. but because of many shackles, their gender, their race, their
economics,
socialization,
access,
their economic,
equity.
exactly. But I must say,
Yes.
you through your struggle with many other women with a collar, the door is a little wider. Although I could ask you, do you feel a sense that if you were not Diana and you were Desmond, okay, not with them,
Okay,
or Duncan,
okay, right?
that you'd be a bishop now? With your endowments, except that you are Duncan and not Diana. Honestly.
I don't want to be arrogant about this. I don't want to step away from humility. I think I could have been a bishop if I was Duncan. But I'm Diana, and I believe every calling is God's calling, and I was called for a time such as this to give only what Diana can give. And that's part of my story now in my book. And I've given, it's a difficult story. It was a difficult story for me to write because my aim was not to expose or hurt or fight back. It was just to say, this is what happened. This is how God used it. And where do we want to go as a church from here?
Do you look forward to seeing a day when a Diana is a bishop in your lifetime?
I want to tell you, what was Friday? What was the date? Friday, the 24th September, 2021. Is the day I launched my book, and I read Bishop Vicentia Bishop elect in South Africa. She's a young lady. I am so excited. If someone could fly me. You're seeing what I'm asking
exactly.
for. To go to that consecration. I was so excited. Also the Bishop of Lesotho. She's going to be the Bishop of Lesotho.
Wow.
Yay. And the one who passed on during COVID, Bishop Elena, was also the Bishop of Lesotho. Lesotho is ahead of us. It's a tiny little country, and look where they're doing. They are ahead of us. But I think people need to go back. They need to pray. Not every man and every woman should be a bishop. They must be called to that position. And there are many who are going to be called to lead without the titles.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Leader without a title.
Yes.
For taking trouble of your otherwise very busy retirement schedule.
Oh yes, I'm very busy.
And sharing your life story. We can thank you more. We are eternally grateful. For the viewers and listeners, especially those who always check us out on YouTube, please, subscribe to our page and click on that bell notification so that when we have new and incredible videos from folks like her, you are on the know and you don't have to wait for our scheduled times. We can thank you more. From wherever it is that you've caught the program, let's meet same time, same place next week with yet another incredible life story. God bless. But before we leave, what will be your last song? The one we say kwaheri.
Okay, kwaheri is this. Whenever I tell this story, I learn new things about myself. And I'm saying to you, my story is in bookshops now. Yeah, get it from Aristoc, Uganda Bookshop. I think it will give you a bit more clarity of the Diana and the changes and challenges and celebrations of her life. People, I'm saying this, I don't know if it's becoming a slogan. There's one you, don't let the world miss out on you.
I love that. And the song that we will dance to as we exit the program.
Oh, all my life, he has been faithful. He's been so good. You know that one? All my life he has been faithful.
I hear my daughters.
All my life he has been so good. Yeah, that's all I'm giving you in case I get a new career.
Looks like your retirement is going to be extremely busy. You may have to end up in recording studios. Wow.
Thank you.
Desert Island Discs.
And all my life you have been so good. With every breath.
Desert Island Discs.
When I was about 11, 12, Michael Jackson came onto the scene.
Wow.
Yes. So there I was, and we loved Michael Jackson. He had very nice
Hair.
Yeah, he was cool. He was a cool black dude. And his voice, wow.
Desert Island Discs.